Hey y'all, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you guys are having a most excellent week. Today we're going to be doing a movie review of a movie that's vaguely related to furries in the fact that it has fursuiters in, although not actual furry fursuiters. And that is the movie Willy's Wonderland, starring Nicolas Cage. And you'd think with such a big star headline in a movie like this that it'd actually be really good, really well produced, really high quality. But unfortunately I have got some bad news for you in this movie, because going through it I was shocked by how bad this movie actually was. Now right from the start, before the movie even got going, I got major B-movie vibes from this, because the opening scenes are just ultra cheese. You know, there was the worst stereotypes you can think about in a horror movie all piled into the opening scene. It was beyond bad. The camera angles were crap. The camera work was shoddy, and using, you know, faded tropes from the 90s with wobble cams and people being dragged dramatically off into the distance, but you could clearly see that there was nothing there dragging them. And it really didn't get any better once Nicolas Cage actually got onto the scene. I mean, his opening shots were like they thought, you know what, this guy was famous in Gone in 60 Seconds, so let's try and recreate the opening to that. They've got him, you know, burning out in a bloody muscle car and driving at high speed and being all dramatic and just being, you know, the ultra cool lone gunman type person. But it just comes off really badly because the camera work was so bad. It's like they took vanity shots of his boots at one point and then more vanity shots of his arm or some other random body part, and they kept doing this throughout the whole movie, trying to make it dramatic, but it just came off as really crap. And he's just such a wooden actor throughout the whole film. I mean, you might not expect it, but he doesn't say a single word in the entire film. Not one word. It's like they were paying him by the word or something and just couldn't afford it because they had him on screen for the film, but he didn't say anything. The robots, the animatronics had more words than Nicolas Cage. The annoying kids were better actors than Nicolas Cage. He just stood there and looked mean. He had this permanent scowl on his face for no reason throughout the entire film. And the storyline for his character made absolutely no sense either. I mean, he was just driving along happily one day, doing his thing, when he hits a police stinger, takes out all 4 of his tyres, and then he gets picked up and taken back to the local town where they acknowledge that the stinger belonged to the local police chief. And yet she doesn't cover the costs of his knackered tyres, despite the fact that it's her fault, it's her stinger, she laid it, she did this to him. No, he has to work off the debt for 4 tyres for some reason, but no one's got a cash machine in the whole town. So they're like, oh, we've got this old pizzeria that we're trying to get back up, or was it hot dogs, I can't remember. We'd love for you to come clean it for us for $1,000, because that's how much 4 tyres cost in America apparently. And for $1,000 for one night, you clean this place, and we'll replace the tyres good as new for you. It's like, who thought this plot? Who thought that's a good idea? That sounds realistic, yeah. Working a single night cleaning a place is worth $1,000. And instead of saying to the police chief, look, lady, you did this to me, it's your fault, you're covering the price of my tyres, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go clean this hot dog joint. Except he doesn't say that, because he doesn't say anything throughout the whole film. And the guy who owns the hot dog joint says to Cage at the very start, while he's showing him around, don't forget to take regular breaks. And I think they use this to shoehorn some Five Nights at Freddy's references to the mini-games between each level. Because every 5 minutes throughout the film, he's stopping, no matter what he's doing, even if he's in the middle of a fight, wandering off to a pinball machine, which he seems to have a sexual attraction to, and playing the pinball, drinking a can, and orgasming for a whole minute before going back to whatever he was doing before. You know, sometimes leaving characters in sticky situations just so you can go have a break, and it makes absolutely no sense. You know, and they miss some real opportunities for some amazing characters and character development in it. I mean, there is one character who is dressed in the stereotypical, you know, slutty outfit type deal, and yet they showed her at the very start to be, you know, kind and caring and helping one of the other characters out of some handcuffs and showing that she actually had a brain on her head, you know, and that she was not the stereotypical sexy ladies trope. But then later on they were just like, oh yeah, ignore everything that went before, we're just gonna throw her under the bus in a obligatory sex scene and show that she's just some horny freak and get her killed. And it's like, you all missed the perfect opportunity for a really strong female lead character in this, and it sucked that they did that to her. And then we got the actual, animatronics in this, which, is blatant that they did rip off Five Nights at Freddy's for this, because they just have major FNAF vibes. But the actual animatronics, a couple of them, were really cool. I mean, Willy the Weasel, I think, was the main one. He was a really cool design, and especially the artwork that they had of him up on the wall. That was some classic, toony art that I really enjoyed. I really liked some of the animatronics. They were really well done, but then some of the other ones, it's like they just slapped them together in 5 minutes and thought, that'll do. I mean, one of them, the siren, I can't remember her name. She was just literally just a lady with a funny head put on top. The rest of it was, not animatronic in the slightest. It was literally just a lady doing cartwheels about, without even any attempts at hiding the fact that it is a human. And I think that was one of the big letdowns, is that in a lot of the scenes you could see that these were just people in fursuits, not actual animatronics. And I think that kind of sucked. It kind of took away from the movie a bit. I mean, the weasel, the gorilla, and, a couple of the others, they were really decent looking. But then the way they moved, it was blatant. It was just a person in a suit. But I'm definitely not going to fault their design. I mean, especially the weasel. It looks like they actually put all their budget into hiring Nicolas Cage, renting a car for him, and these one or two of these suits. But they definitely lacked on the remaining special effects, especially the blood. The blood scenes were terrible. It's like someone just thought, let's colour some water and splash it about, because that's about as effective as it was. And so many inconsistencies on the special effects. I mean, you saw scenes where, like, the weasel was able to cut a person in half with just a slap, and then Nicolas Cage could somehow withstand being slapped silly by this guy. And Cage's completely uncaring attitude towards all the freaky shit going on around him. It's like, oh great, animatronics are attacking, and he's just like, oh well, I guess I have to fight them then. And for some reason they made him OP as fuck, able to like smash in these animatronics and just rip their heads off with his bare hands and things. And these are animatronics that are, 5 seconds earlier, ripping people apart and tearing their guts out, and yet somehow he can just like slap them silly. And some of the fight scenes involving Cage are just horrific. I mean, this film is possibly worse than the time he stole the Declaration of Independence. It is that bad. I don't know why he signed up for this film. Maybe he thought that while it was still a Five Nights at Freddy film before he got turned into Willy's Wonderland and all the concepts stolen, maybe it might have been a good idea at that time to be in this film. But what actually came out of the studio for $5 million was absolute trash. I mean, it was the crappiest film I have seen in a long time. This film rivals Plan 9 from Outer Space for crap production values. I mean, you all may remember I did a film review on Furry, which was legitimately a, movie made by amateurs who were just doing it for a bit of fun. This was worse than Furry. This was absolute garbage. It was so bad that it was just, I'm speechless for how crap this film was. Don't waste your money buying this film. If you see it for £1, leave it there. It's not worth it. It really is that bad. This is definitely a 0 out of 5 for me. This is a horrific film, and I recommend you all stay well away from it, unless you just want to laugh at Cage being a dumbass for an entire hour. And of course, it wouldn't be a proper movie without some sort of, sketchy shit happening at the end, and that is the fact that Cage, a guy who's, I think, in his 50s or 60s now, drives off into the sunset with a teenage girl in his car with him. And it's like, what? How does that make any sense? And isn't that a bit sketchy? I mean, what are they implying here? That he's now, she's now his love interest or something? I mean, that's dodgy as fuck. Whoever thought about putting that scene in is, sketchy and treading a very fine line indeed. So yeah, that is my opinion on Willy's Wonderland, possibly the worst film I've seen this decade. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, drop a like, subscribe. If you've seen the film, drop your comments below, tell me what you think of it. Other than that, I hope you have a most excellent day, an amazing week, and I will see you guys in the next video, okay? Take care, ta-ra.